Good morning. Today is Tuesday, October 21st. I'm Corva Coleman from NPR News, and here are today's top stories. A federal appeals court will allow President Trump to deploy National Guard troops in Portland. From Oregon Public Broadcasting, Lauren Dake has more.
Oregon and California have National Guard troops stationed outside Portland city limits, but it's unclear what impact this ruling will immediately have on the ground. The Ninth Circuit's 2-1 decision applies to just one of two temporary restraining orders blocking deployment of troops from both Oregon and other states. Oregon Governor Tina Kotek said that the state will continue to fight in courts to block troops from being stationed outside the Immigration and Customs Enforcement facility.
Until that second temporary restraining order is rescinded, troops cannot be deployed anywhere in Oregon at this point.
The ICE facility in Portland has been the site of protests since June. For NPR News, I'm Lauren Dake in Portland.
A federal judge in Chicago has issued a new order to the Trump administration as federal agents near the city continue immigration raids. The judge is requiring the top official in the Border Patrol to answer questions in a deposition. He's to be asked about the treatment of protesters. From member station WBEZ, Michael Puente has more.
Gregory Bovino, the U.S. Border Patrol commander at large, and two other federal officials will have to answer questions about tactics used for the so-called Operation Midway Blitz. District Judge Sarah Ellis heard testimony Monday on whether ICE and Border Patrol agents are complying with her temporary restraining order issued October 9th, prohibiting the targeting of protesters and the press during demonstrations. Ellis called for the hearing because she had concerns over recent confrontations where tear gas was used without warning to the public. Another hearing is set for early next month. For NPR News, I'm Michael Puente in Chicago.
This is day 21 of the federal government shutdown. The Senate failed again yesterday to pass a spending bill that could end it. President Trump is expected to host Republican senators at the White House today for lunch to discuss the shutdown. The federal government shutdown has not stopped work for President Trump's new ballroom at the White House. NPR's Tamara Keith reports workers started demolishing the east wing of the White House yesterday to start construction on the ballroom.
The construction is privately funded through donations, so a White House official says the government shutdown didn't delay the groundbreaking. Last week, during a dinner at the White House for large-dollar donors, President Trump pointed out toward the east wing of the White House and explained.
Everything out there is coming down, and we're replacing it with one of the most beautiful ballrooms that you've ever seen.
That demolition is happening now.
And you're going to see a ballroom the likes of which I don't think it'll be topped.
Trump now says the ballroom will hold 999 people, an increase from the 650 originally announced. Tamara Keith, NPR News.
At least 3 Democratic-led states are taking a page from the Trump administration's playbook. They've begun posting partisan messages on official state websites. They're blaming the shutdown on Republicans. NPR's Giles Snyder has more.
The messages appeared on the state agency websites in California, Illinois, and Pennsylvania that administer the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, commonly called SNAP. The messages warn SNAP recipients that food assistance may not be available next month if the shutdown continues. All 3 states blame Republicans, saying their failure to pass a federal budget caused the shutdown. They are similar to messages first displayed by federal government websites that blame Democrats, leading to concern about violations of the Hatch Act, the law that restricts political activity by federal employees. The Agriculture Department warned states last week of delays in food assistance that millions of Americans rely on. Giles Snyder, NPR News.
Vice President Vance has arrived in Israel, part of an effort by the Trump administration to bolster the shaky ceasefire between Hamas and Israel. NPR's Greg Myrie reports 2 other U.S. envoys are already there.
Vice President Vance is hoping to keep the truce on track and nudge Israel and Hamas to move toward the more challenging part of the deal, known as Phase 2. Vance arrived a day after Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff and President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, landed here as part of the same mission. They've already held talks with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Israel and Hamas traded extensive fire on Sunday, but Gaza has been mostly calm since then. The ceasefire now calls for a new government in Gaza, an Israeli troop pullback, and for Hamas to give up its weapons. At the moment, there's no clear plan for any of these steps. Greg Myrie, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
Meanwhile, militants inside Gaza have released the latest deceased Israeli hostage. It is the body of a man who was killed 2 years ago in the Hamas attack on October 7th. NPR's Rob Schmitz has more from Tel Aviv.
Israel has identified the body of Tal Haimi, who was 42 years old when he was killed defending his kibbutz 2 years ago against Hamas militants, who then took his body into Gaza. According to his wife, Ella, Haimi told her on the morning of the Hamas attack that there were terrorists nearby and asked her to lock up their house. She and their 3 children survived, and she had their 4th child after his death. There are still 15 deceased Israeli hostages left in Gaza, and Israel has handed over 150 deceased Palestinians so far in exchange for the bodies of its hostages. Hamas says it is waiting for the delivery of digging equipment to recover the remaining bodies of Israeli hostages. Rob Schmitz, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
Japan has chosen its first female prime minister. Her ruling party faces an uphill struggle to retain power. NPR's Anthony Kuhn reports she has 1 week to prepare for a scheduled visit by President Trump.
Japan's parliament voted 64-year-old Sanai Takaichi in as prime minister just weeks after the ruling Liberal Democratic Party, or LDP, chose her as its president. Her predecessor, Shigeru Ishiba, quit after the LDP suffered 2 big electoral defeats, reducing the LDP to a minority in both houses of parliament. The LDP's longtime political ally, Komeito, walked out of their coalition. The LDP signed a new coalition agreement with the opposition Japan Innovation Party. While Takaichi is a fan of former British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher and has broken Japan's glass ceiling, she takes a traditional view of gender roles. Even for the conservative LDP, Takaichi's selection is widely seen as a hard swerve to the right. Anthony Kuhn, NPR News, Seoul.
Former FBI Director James Comey is asking a federal judge to throw out the Justice Department's charges that he allegedly made false statements to Congress. NPR's Kerry Johnson reports Comey says he's only being prosecuted because President Trump demanded it.
President Trump fired Comey as the FBI director in 2017, and Comey went on to become a fierce critic. The Justice Department won an indictment against Comey for allegedly misleading and obstructing Congress under pressure from Trump, who's called him a dirty cop and a slime ball. Now Comey's moving to dismiss the case because he says it's a vindictive or selective prosecution. He says at least 4 top officials during President Trump's first term allegedly lied to Congress, and none of them was charged with any crimes. The president's animus against Comey is so intense that the Justice Department recently fired Comey's daughter without any clear reason. Kerry Johnson, NPR News, Washington.
In Major League Baseball, the Toronto Blue Jays won a dramatic, deciding Game 7 yesterday by clinching the American League Championship Series against the Seattle Mariners. From member station KUOW in Seattle, Vaughn Jones has more.
Both teams scored in the first inning, but Seattle quickly regained the lead after home runs from superstars Julio Rodriguez and Cal Raleigh. The score stayed at 3-1 until Blue Jays star George Springer turned the game on its head with one swing in the 7th inning, a home run that would make the score 4-3. That score held, and the Blue Jays make their first World Series since 1993. The Mariners remain the only MLB team to never make the Fall Classic. The World Series kicks off on Friday at Rogers Center in Toronto, with the 2024 champion LA Dodgers and the Blue Jays the last team standing. For NPR News, I'm Vaughn Jones in Seattle.
I'm Corva Coleman, NPR News.